The red light. Okay, here we go. Grand Rising, Great Garvey Night, and welcome to Division 284, UNIAACL Division in London. And we are doing our lesson on the Message to the People by the Right Honourable Marcus Garvey, and we are studying Lesson 12. So the reading is going to commence. Organized society is always a mass of people, and as such, cannot do anything explicit or by detail by themselves. Hence, the organization of institutes to do particular work that cannot be done by the masses as a whole. There are different kinds of institutions in a society, but each institution has its particular function, whether it be the church, college, or university, school, hospital, academy, chamber of commerce, fraternity, trade, union, literary, club, sports club, athletics, gymnasium, YMCA, or YMCA. In our present civilization, no society would be considered. Sorry, I've just lost my page. I'll just read that again on the second paragraph. In our present civilization, no society would be considered functioning properly if such institution did not exist. Therefore, it is necessary for the Negro to pay close attention. Let me scroll up. Yeah, that's okay. I'll just read that sentence again. Therefore, it is necessary for the Negro to pay close attention to the developing the appreciation of institutional, institutional rule. Yeah. Excuse me, I'm sorry about this. I have to scroll up. Yeah. All right. So that's institutional life. I beg your pardon. Let me just scroll up again to the next paragraph. It is not necessary or binding that he copies completely the system, methods, or manners of these institutions, except in as so far as they would go to help him to promote a higher life and in accomplishing the most out of this organized society incumbent upon him. He also have and control his own institutions based upon his own cultural and civilized idealism. As for instance, he may have his own church, but it is not necessary for him to adopt the peculiar articles of faith of the Church of Alien Races. He is not a Hebrew, therefore he would not adopt the Hebrew faith. He is not by origin a Roman Catholic, nor an Anglican. Because these faiths or religions were founded by white men with the idea of their own, in his religious philosophy, the Negro may safely adopt articles of faith to link him to the Godhead of the Christian faith and practice such as his particular religion. Particular religion, and so likewise with all institutions, his universities, colleges, and schools may engage in the same process of education, but with an adopted curriculum necessary for the special benefit of the Negro. His clubs, academies, and unions should be modeled in the same way, with the absolute objective of attaining the end that is particularly desired by the race. The Negro should never completely surrender himself to the institutional life of other people. Otherwise, he will not be original, but purely and merely a copyist. If this could be appreciated, it should show or reveals the wide field which have remained untouched for Negro organizations and Negro activity. It is through the institutions of the race that the civilizations and culture of the race are built. The Negro should occupy himself in cultivating his own culture and ultimately achieving his own civilized ends, so that in the comparison of racial achievements, he may be able to stand out distinctively on those achievements on his own account as others may do. To live on the achievement of others is to really admit that the superiority of others and and inferiority of self. And as a fact, it is by such comparisons that the Negro is judged as an inferior being. Nothing that is handed to the Negro by somebody else should be sufficiently satisfactory to the Negro. Where am I? Lost my can somebody? Yeah. You should seek. You should seek to surround it with originality, and then claim it as his own. He is justified in remodeling and reshaping the things to quit himself. Sorry, I'll read that again. He is justified in remodeling and reshaping the things to suit himself, because there is nothing new under the sun. Whatever other people have, the Negro is. I'll read that again. Whatever other people have, the Negro is the father of civilization. He constructed the first government in Africa and thereby taught others the way. Always seek to improve on whatever you see fit to adopt. Never leave it at where you adopt it, because somebody else will claim it and prove their right to it. When you've added to it or taken away from it, you can prove that it is not the same thing. Therefore, it is yours always. So sorry, full stop. Yours and then full stop. Always carefully and thoroughly investigate the accomplishments of other races. Try to improve and beat them at those achievements, and keep your achievements a secret from them. Never open up the facts of your achievements to others, because they are too anxious to get the last word on anything that is worthwhile. Always hide the secrets of your achievements while demonstrating those achievements. It must be like a demonstrating of those achievements. It must be like a chemist selling his preparations or demonstrating it without giving away his formula. Because the moment he does, so there will be many similar preparations on the market. Each institution of a people has its special object to attain, and may not fit in with the idealism of other peoples. So the Negro should have his own. He should not be a slave to other people's idealism. In some detail or others, each people's institutions must differ from yours according to their particular idealism. The Jew could never be a Negro in his institutional line, nor an Anglo-Saxon a Latin, nor a Latin or a Teuton, nor neither a Negro. Therefore, a Negro must not try to be either, but in his institutional line be himself. Like the Jew whom nature made a Jew for a particular purpose, therefore he must be different, both in his habits, in his way of living, and in his idealism. All peoples have separate and distinct functions, and they should keep to those functions. The archangels in heaven have their functions. The cherubims have theirs, and the seraphims have theirs. And so with humanity, following God and heaven's example, there is no reason why the Negro should not have his, and when he doesn't, he is not living the proper life in accordance with the purpose for which nature made him. Your entire physiognomy, excuse me, anybody can correct me, is different from the people's. Your hair is woolly, your nose is broad, your lips are thick, and so this difference must also be intended in your outlook and in your viewpoint on life. Anyone who tells you the contrary is a liar and a fraud. In fact, an enemy to you and your nature. In this human world of confusion, never let anyone tell you that although of different races, you are one. If you were one, God would have made you so, because he is not a deceiver. The Ethiopian is spoken of as a being, different even in the scripture. It is said that he cannot change his skin. Think what that means. It is fair assumption that others may change their skins, but not the Ethiopian, who is Negro. The black man's soul, there must be something permanent and lasting and eternal about the black man. God knows why he fixes it so. Don't try to change it by subterfuge or by infernal fraud. What a grand thing is to know that while all other things change, because of your race, cannot change. Tell this to the world. Tell them how lasting you are. And when they doubt it, I just lost my thing again. Sorry. Excuse me. Excuse me, gentlemen. I've just lost my.
No problem.
I'm just been distracted.
Tell this to the world. Tell them how lasting you are. And when they doubt it, send them to their Bibles. That's where you are, brother. I can continue.
Send them to their Bibles.
Like.
God knows he fixes it so. Don't try to change it by I'll start from there, from subterfuge or by infertile fluid. What a grand thing it is to know that while all other things change, you, because of your race, cannot change. Tell this to the world. Tell them how lasting you are, and when they doubt it, send them their Bibles, which you yourself never wrote. It emphasizes the greater truth that it may be so, but that it may be so, because of even those who wish otherwise have to acknowledge, in this respect, of virtue. The black man evidently was the first man. Adam and Eve were black. Their two children, Cain and Abel, were black. And when Cain slew Abel, God appeared to ask him for his brother. He was so shocked that he turned white, being the affliction of leprosy, and as such he became the progenitor of a new race, born out of double sin. The white man is Cain, transformed, hence his career of murder from Cain to Mussolini. It is evident and fair assumption that when Cain ran away and disappeared from the neighborhood of his parents and sojourned afar, he built up a new race, living in the same country but far away, and in the process of time in Africa, where all this happened. The Negro race, through Adam and Eve, continued their multiplication, and it is spread in itself in the development of a civilization. It came suddenly upon the settlement of Cain, and knowing Cain's history of blood, ran the entire race from that neighborhood across the Mediterranean into Europe. The white race of Cain hid in caves for centuries. Therefore, their white skin became fixed because of most of the time they were hidden from the light. Hence, the white man, as a European, the world is only part of the creation, an atom of universe. It is complete entity of creation in relationship with other entities in the creation. Man is made of mind and matter. Matter is manifested through nature, and mind in the connection link with the spirit of God. The highest mind in the world is the mind of man, in that behind it is the spirit of God, giving the mind free will to act through The soul is mind, as well as the feeling of heart is soul, and mind. The explanation of this is intricate, as that of a Trinity: God of Father, God of Son, and God of the Holy Ghost. God rules the universe, all matters and mind. So man, through his mind, rules the world, over which he is Lord. The whole world then belongs to man. Each man should get his appropriate or proportionate share. When in a lifetime he falls to get his naturally, when in a lifetime he falls to get this, he naturally fails to lift himself up to his lordship. One man's disposition of his lordship enthrones another. Man's sovereignty over him, another man's sovereignty over him, I beg your pardon. Hence, a ruling man and a serving man, a ruling race and a serving race. Never be a race of servers, but a race of sovereign lords. Control the world, because the world is your province. The world will not yield more than you want it to yield. But if you know the world, you can make the world yield much. Whatever you want, always try to master the world. The master of the world, you must know. Sorry, let's read that again. Yeah. Whatever you want, always try to master the world. The master, the world, you must know the world. Hence, you must pass outside of your own district, country, county, and country to know the world and possess it. Because all that is yours for the getting. Go and get it. There is no rival but your fellow man. Never allow your fellow man to rise higher than you.
I think we lost you, brother Sando. Okay, well, let me continue from where our dear brother left. Okay. Know the world, go and possess it, because all that is in it is yours for the getting. Go and get it. There is no other rival but your fellow man. Never allow your fellow man to rise higher than you, otherwise he will make you his slave. If you do not use the world well by understanding it, it will destroy you through its matter and through its mind. If you treat the world well by receiving it thoroughly, the world will serve you obediently. Always dispute the right of any other man's superiority over you in the world. Fear no other man but God, for God is your superior, but man is always your equal. So long as you rise to its attainments, you may rise to its attainments through the extraordinary use of your mind. Mind is matter, mind is king. When it goes wrong, it loses its sceptre, remains right and wields the sceptre and sits upon its throne. Always be on the throne. It is your prerogative. It is your right, because you are the Lord and master of the earth and all things therein. In going through the world, hold your head and courage high, for you must always remember that you are a man and the ruler of the world. Remember that you rule the world through your mind. Think high, think deeply, think in a way to make you know all around about you. If you do not know, you will fail. Be sure to know. Knowledge is everywhere. It is hidden. Search for it, and you will discover it. And no one else knows about it. Keep it and use it for the good of yourself and your race. Your first duty in this world is to yourself, your family, your race, and your racial nation, then worship God absolutely and thank Him for all. If you allow another man to know more than you, he will lead you. He will lead you up to the precepts, and if it suits his purpose, he will let it fall in as he does. When you have to follow another man because you don't know, you are taking a dangerous risk. He may bury you. He may hide you away to suit his convenience. Therefore, while you walk the world, always be on guard. Try mental balance. Try perception. We're losing these things in the world. There is nothing that cannot be
Sound kind of choppy, brother Commissioner.
internet. Do you want to continue? If it's
Hello. Yeah. Um. Now I lost where he was on the page. Um. President race first. Okay. Um. I'll start back. Well, before I mess with this phone, where I last saw the reading. Um. Knowledge is everywhere. It is hidden. Search for it, and when you discover it, and no one else knows about it, keep it and use it for the good of yourself and your race. Your first duty in the world is to yourself, your family, your race, and your racial nation. Then worship God, absolutely, and thank Him for all. If you allow another man to know more than you, he will lead you up to the precipice, and if it suits his purposes, he will let you fall in. Therefore, know as much as he does and more, so that he may not lead you blindly. When you have to follow another man because you do not know, you are taking a dangerous risk. He may bury you. He may hide you away to suit his convenience. Therefore, while you walk through the world, always be on guard. Try not to lose your mind. Try not to lose your mental balance. Try not to lose your sense of perception, because in losing these things, you are doomed in the world. There is nothing man cannot know except the divine and almighty mysteries of God. All that is possible to man, man may know by seeking knowledge that is in the world. Always try to be self sufficient in yourself. Where it is impossible, seek that self sufficiency in your racial relations, comradeship, or in your race. Always see to it that your race is self sufficient. That means that everything you want must be obtainable in your race as far as human relationships will permit. If you are not individually self sufficient or cooperative in your racial relations, or self sufficient in your race as a whole, you will have to go outside of yourself for that sufficiency, which will make you absolutely dependent on the goodwill of others for your sufficiency. No one will give away value that is wanted for self, so you will have to serve and become servants or slaves to sufficiency. Never wait on another man's pocketbook. Use your own, because he may never show up. He may die on the way, and your wait will be too long. And that concludes lessons 12, Purpose of Institutions, which was a powerful set of lessons.
Give thanks, give thanks. Greetings, great Garvey Day.
Great God every day.
You
Yeah,
well?
Sister Nelson. Yeah, yeah. Hey.
You okay?
Oh, yeah, Madam President. How are you?
Madam President. I'm great, great, Mr. President.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, yeah. I like well, I always say I like every lesson, but yeah, that lesson is it's a powerful set of lessons, I guess you can say, because it covers the purpose of institutions, in the sense that we need to institutionalize certain things amongst our race. And we need to establish institutions, yes, but we also need to establish or find a way to institutionalize Garveyism as a household word. It's a household philosophy. It's a cultural norm that our race embraces. Because, the institute is the set in the motion. And, as I always say, Garveyism is an action word, not just a theory or some untested, philosophy. It's a practice, it's an action word. So as we institute or set into motion the gospel of Garveyism, it should be reflected in all the institutions that we established along the way. Some that we've already built over the years, and some that we have to, kind of create along the way. Because there's always a new need and a new service or a new, way of institutionalizing the things that we need. And institutions don't always mean some type of social service. There are many social services like schools and churches and rites of passages and all these sort of things. But sometimes we can institutionalize a gospel through a campaign, do producing books or some other kind of media or product. We can institutionalize things by having an annual Garvey Day celebration or, some types of programs. So the institutionalizing of certain sets of ideas and ideals are necessary, along with providing services for the community, which UNIA historically we know through the Black Cross and through the Universal African Legion and other uniform ranks, auxiliaries, alongside institutions politically like the PPP, People's Political Party, was the first Black political party period in Jamaica. Alongside Mr. Garvey's programs of the Universal Negro Political Union, which was the international Black political party that he formed back in 1924, as well as the beginning that he never got to complete of the African census of the world. All these types of institutions that we have had and we will need probably to continue building important institutions for our benefit so that we'll have the ability to have the things that other peoples of the world have and need for themselves. So when we see that the disasters strike and other folks organize a Red Cross and then another set of people organize a Red Crescent. We know the Red Cross was looking out for rednecks, and so Black people needed a Black Cross. We needed some of our own to build an institution to look after our interests. So when the Cunard family had the White Star Line and the Irish took on the Green Star Line, why not the Black Star Line? Why not have our own programs, our own businesses, corporations, and other things to do for self? So, the institutionalizing of Garveyism, which I say is really the rationalism of nationalism, the restoration of nation state formation, the establishment of the African ancestral sovereignty imperative, us being able to do for self is something we need to institutionalize and reflect in all the institutions that we build. Racial education, not just teaching some basics about history and math and science. We need to racialize it so that we instill certain character and certain history to our benefit. So Saturday schools as well as the weekly schools and that our children attend. All the other programs that we need. In fact, there was a book written once that called the UNIA, the institutionalization of a civil religion of sorts. And somewhere, yeah, we are an institute of institutions. So our purpose is to build and provide everything we need for ourselves so that we can have that lordship over our affairs that Mr. Garvey talked about. In fact, one of his quotes that I kind of favored from the piece, and I'll just close with this, is when in a lifetime he fails to get this, he fails to lift himself up to his lordship. One man's dispossession of his lordship enthrones another man's sovereignty over him. Hence, a ruling man and a serving man, a ruling race and a serving race. The dispossession of your lordship enthrones another man's sovereignty over you. That's a powerful statement. And I'll close with that one. Open up the mic.
Yeah, I really like that you said that, Garvey's like a doing word, literally like adverb, I believe it's called. It just reinforced what we're supposed to do. We say Garvey, it means something to do with doing. But also as well, it really does reinforce what Marcus Garvey started, which was to make sure that we had for ourselves, like every other nation has. And that's what I got from this chapter in terms of institutions, just that we pull our resources together and we have for ourselves, even if you don't use them, which is blasphemous in itself. The fact that you know that they're there has got to be better than not having anything at all. And right now we don't have much. It's all very individual. It's not collective, and we need to be able to have collective um, organizations that are specific to us, because we're lacking and we're behind. So it's about putting those things in place and making sure that they're there. So when we do need them, and people do realize that they are there, and we that they are accessible, that they are there.
Yes, my sister, 100%. I want to thank Brother Sando for reading. I know that you was cut short the internet, and then I took over, and then my internet was playing up, and then our beloved president continued the reading. So I want to thank you both for getting us through the word of the day. For me, what I got most from this chapter is not even about institutions, beloved. It was about the power of the mind and the way we must use our mind to rule ourselves and then the world, because everything takes place in the mind first. Marcus Garvey said that intelligence rules the world, and ignorance, or ignorant people, I like to say, carry the burden. And if you look around the world, we are the most ignorant people and we are carrying the burden. If you look at us in the UK, for instance, we're struggling to get a building. And those that do have a building, they can't even do what they want because they're funded by the government. So the government have control over what they do in the building and what they can't do in the building. So, the mind, brothers and sisters, he talks about there's nothing that man cannot know except for the divine and the almighty mysteries of God. All that is possible to man may know by seeking that is in the world. So there's nothing we cannot know. Even right now, we've been talking about studying and the power of studying. If we read, if everybody read, we would know so much, brothers and sisters, that we wouldn't be able to be tricked. Whoever knows more than you technically rules over you, especially if, for instance, when you go to the doctor knows more than you about your health. So the doctor may prescribe some medicine or whatever, but you're not going to argue with the doctor. Well, I would hope not anyway. Most people just take what the doctor says. But if you know about your body, you will challenge the doctor, say, no, doctor, that's not what's wrong with me. This is what's wrong with me, rare, and you will be able to maybe even self-medicate yourself. And that comes from wisdom. We don't argue when we don't know. We have to take the advice of the person who knows. Well, I would hope so anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because if we don't, then that's just ignorant. Do you know what I mean? But the mind, brothers and sisters. Throughout this chapter, we hear Garvey talking about the mind. And he talks about all matter and mind. The mind is the most powerful thing. You know what I'm saying? So we need to really program our mind, to build these institutions, to build. If we was all on the same frequency, like I believe, or I know that when Garvey in the 1920s or the late 1916s, 17, 18s to 20s, Garvey changed the frequency of our people and had our people thinking of something different. And they agreed with the thinking, and they fell in line with this thinking. And in doing so, we saw the results of this. Right now, we're caught up on this individual stuff, and we're not getting the institutions that we desire. We're not getting it. And we can see how civilization is run. You know, Garvey talked about the white man is Cain transformed, hence his career of murder from Cain to Mussolini. That's a deep statement, brothers and sisters. You know, a lot of people like to skip past certain of these statements that Garvey makes, but me personally, I like to highlight those things, because Garvey is making you know who our enemy is. And you know, he was living in a time where they were lynching black men. That's why I find Garvey, you know, such a brave individual, because what he's saying could get him killed at any moment, and he didn't care. He was prepared to meet death. And even when I was studying, like I recently just finished the Black Panther book, and when I was even studying the Black Panther book, it's Huey or Elder Cleaver said that when you join the Panthers, you know that you're potentially gonna die or go to prison, and that's the burden that you have to take on when you join this organization. And the brothers and sisters still joined. I think that's powerful, brothers and sisters, that when you put your life on the line for something that you believe in. I don't want nobody to die for what they believe in. I want us to live for what we believe in. But I'm just saying it takes a certain type of man. What matter of man is this that will give his life for people? You know, Garvey died at, they say 52. Garvey lives forever, but his physical body died at 52. If you look at his whole life was dedicated to the liberation of our people. His whole life, brothers and sisters.
And it was a heavy cross to bear. Very heavy. It was a lot.
100%. And he didn't. And he said that he would do it again. He would do it over and over again if it need be. He didn't regret anything. Even when things went wrong, sister, he still said, you know what, this is what we need to do, because he saw the vision. And it worked. You know, I still say that, you know, that time, the Garveyites of that generation are some of the greatest black men to ever walk this earth. And I stand by that, because look what they accomplished in 5 years. The man had ships. Do you know how much those ships cost?
Mm-hmm.
And the brothers and sisters, they pulled their resources together. They built universities. They had businesses. Garvey gave us a flag. We didn't have a flag before. They made songs about us. The Negro, everybody has a flag but the Negro. Garvey gave us confidence in self. You know, we was, even me and you, sister Nyasha, we was talking about the other day about Du Bois disrespecting Garvey's African features. Garvey made us love our African features. He made us embrace our blackness, because God made us black and God made no mistakes.
Yep.
Even today, we find that our brothers and sisters, some are bleaching their skin, trying to look like somebody they're not. But Garvey already gave us the love for ourselves. But wheeling it back in. You know, what I got from this chapter was us taking control of our minds, because the mind is where everything starts. And from the mind, we will be able to accomplish anything that we want. But we have to think it. Because if we don't think it, we're not going to get it done. So how do we change our minds? By studying, brothers and sisters. We change our outlook by studying. Because by studying, you get to know things. And when you know things, you start to change your ways now. Because you say, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to eat that food no more, because that food kills our people. Or maybe I'm not going to do that because that is not good for me. By knowing. Not by believing, by knowing. And you know by getting information, by studying. So it's very important that we study. Because even if, let's just say, everybody on the chat read a book a week, hypothetically. Do you know how much books we've read in that year? Between the 5 of us. There's a wealth of knowledge amongst, and that's just 1 year. Imagine we did that for 10 years. Studied businesses, we studied the way how to do things. We will start to get different results. Our money habits will change, because you can tell a lot about a person by the way they spend their money, on what they spend their money on. because your money is the giveaway to the way you think, in my opinion. Because habits reflect the mind. So ultimately, we've got to start changing our minds. Is the point that I'm getting to. We've got to start changing our minds. And, you know, at times I'm guilty, you know, of getting frustrated because we haven't changed our minds yet. Like, one man can't do it. So we get frustrated with our brothers and sisters at times when, you know, it's a bit unfortunate. It's a bit unfair, maybe even to them. But for us that know, it's a bit unfair to us too, because we're trying to do something and we can't because you don't want to change your mind. Do you understand? So you're comfortable in that way of thinking. But we've got to change our mind. We've got to be raised first in what we do. We've got to start changing our minds, brothers and sisters. This is the only way it's going to work. So that's what I got from that chapter anyway. I know I've been going on for a little bit. I will open up the mic to everybody else. But for me,
Keep
this
on
chapter,
talking. Keep it on.
for me, oh, yeah, all right, my sister. I will indeed. I've been given permission to go on.
Yeah. The wisdom
But
is good. We need to hear this.
listen to what it says here, though, in the book. So when you have to follow another man because you don't know, you're taking a dangerous risk, and he may bury you. How much times are we being buried, brothers and sisters, for following other people? I remember John Henry Clark said that he'd rather walk himself to hell than follow a bunch of fools to heaven. And that always stood out to me. And I kind of lived to that. Like, I'm not a follower. It's better to trot it one away, as Sizzler would say, than follow people. And we teach our children, most of us, our parents here, we always teach our children, be a leader. Don't follow people. Don't follow a friend. Friend will get you in a problem. That my grandmother used to always say. At the time, I didn't get it. I thought she didn't understand, you know. But when I look back now, a lot of my friends, they were followers, and some ended up dead, some ended up in prison. Garvey was teaching us to be leaders. Garvey was teaching us to be leaders. And the way how you lead is taking control of your mind. That's why Garvey said, you know, you yourself have to strike the first blow of liberty. He said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, you know. For none other than yourself can free your mind. Don't look to me. Don't look to Sister Nyasha. Don't look to Race First. Don't look to Brother Sandal. Don't look to the President General, because we can only give you information. It's up to you to change your life. You know, last week we had the I like to call him the pastor, but I know he's not a pastor. But we had our chaplain or Brother Amani on the chat, and he was, and I was talking about Lazarus as he was there. I kind of used a Bible analogy. When Christ, there's two things I want to mention. One about the woman, yeah, the power of the sisters, yeah. When the sisters get it right, yeah, the world is in problems. White supremacy is in problems from the sisters get their mind right. But the women said to Christ, yeah, if you was here, this wouldn't happen, because she understood. But when Christ went to Lazarus, you know, he said, rise from the dead. Lazarus rise from the dead. But he was still in these grave garments, and Christ sent him back to the death or the grave, you know, to change his garments. And I know that's a metaphor. Right? We're coming and we're still sleeping. We're coming with the same slave mentality. We have to get rid of the slave mind. Once we get rid of the slave mind, we'll be able to move as sovereigns, as Brother Sando would say. We'll be sovereign beings. And this teaching that Garvey came to give us will make us sovereign beings. This teaching that Garvey came to give us will make us free and liberated beings. And it's not about a man, it's about the teachings. Because they say Garvey lives. I said, okay, Garvey can only live if we do the works. If we're not doing the works, Garvey's dead. Or Garveyism has no power. In doing the works now, Garvey lives and reigns supreme, because we have everything we need to know. This book alone tells you what to do. You could be dumb, deaf, and blind, and you read this book, you're a leader amongst men.
This is
This
the
book
Adam.
alone.
This is the apple of the tree.
Yes, indeed, beloved. This is the apple of the tree. This book, you already know how much times I tell you this book changed my life. You know, this single book changed my whole life. I was on a different trajectory until I read this book. Once I read this book, my life changed. Unfortunately for me, or fortunately for me, depends on how you look at it. The glass half full, or you know, or half empty. But you know, it's a struggle. You know, as we know, brothers and sisters. You know, to liberate ourselves and our people is the hardest task to do. If it was easy, this is why Garvey is so amazing, because he was able to do what he did. Now we're in 2024 with all the technology, with all the resources that Garvey never had, and we can't even do 1% of what this man did. We can't even organize to keep on time. So we have to get our minds together. We have to get our minds right. We have to, brothers and sisters. And in doing so, we will get the results that we want. In doing so, we will all be happy. All of us will smile. We'll be enjoying life once we get our minds right, because we will be getting the results that we want. When you're winning, you know, you don't cry, you smile. When you're winning, when you're losing, you become depressed. You become disheartened. You become stressed. So people will say, so go ahead, President General. I always love when you interject, because I know you got some fire for me.
Well, no, I was just thinking as you were talking that, yeah, I mean, you know, Mr. Garvey was I always say, the restoration of nation state formation. When, you know, people look at our enslavement and our colonization as a bad part of our history, but some consider it a disruption of our history, a disruption of our natural development. Had we continued unabated in our rise as a race of people, where we would have been. And after we were kidnapped and you know, brought to the different nations of the world, after we were westernized and colonized, some of our ability to form nation states, to form hunting and gathering parties, to form councils, to do certain things and act in our benefit, we lost it. We were denied, you know, physically and you know, psychologically, the ability to want to develop a maroon society of sorts in all parts of the world and connect that with a solid African world empire. So this concept that Mr. Garvey saw other people doing and saw the lack thereof in us, and studied how to go about instilling that spirit as well as a plan in us. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's, you know, it's miraculous even, how his mind manifested these things into existence, you know, materialize these things into existence. So it's extraordinary. The more I read the book, you know, how he was able to put this school of African philosophy together so late in the game, you know, after being able to build such a world empire, to come together and put this piece together so that we'd have an exclusive set of knowledge of our own as leaders, until unfortunately it was, you know, discovered by some unscrupulous people and given to the world. But this particular knowledge we had of how to build and grow and think, so that we would be lords and leaders and sovereigns over our own affairs, is extraordinary. And I did like the reference, by the way, to the to Cain and Abel being black. And when Cain slew Abel, God appeared to ask him for his brother. He was so shocked that he turned white. That kind of reverse engineers the whole concept of the curse of Ham. That, you know, black people came from Ham, and all of a sudden they became cursed by God, and you know, therefore we were fit to be slaves and all that, because we were the curse of the Bible. But Mr. Garvey reversed that and flipped the script on him, and made where Cain appeared to be white, him as the source of all the evil, the double sin. I think he mentioned coming out of the Cain family line. It must be where the Europeans came from. But his way of understanding and seeing things, and um, you know, mastering a subject, and knowing how to deconstruct lies and reconstruct truth is just phenomenal. You know, the more you think about it. So, and I was going to ask a question too, for everybody today, because as we think about the institutions that we need in a society today, across the globe, We've had a number of different projects at the UNIA, from the corporations like the Black Star Line and the Negro World and all these universities and all sorts of institutions, hotels and things, corporations that we built. But also, as far as the institutions, we've had quite a few of them. And the most recent one the UNIA had formed was called Operation Going Home, and it was formed by a brother back in the '70s, which was the Africanization program that he wanted Africans in America or abroad to be able to learn a little bit about African culture, about some of the needs on the continent, and be trained in how to address those needs, and then sent back to a respective community where they can serve the greatest good. And it was an interesting concept or institution that our former commissioner, who passed away, Howard Wesley, had came up with. And I had thought about another idea that at some point I like to see, the same way that that England, for example, can have a Royal Academy of Science or Royal Academy of Mathematics. We were the first to build scientific institutions, and others, refine modern science, to their benefit. But we were the ones that brought science and math and all these things into the world. Yet today, we had to get the Chinese to build an African Union headquarters. But we got to rely on other people to perform the benefits of technology and science for us. When we, were suffering from different diseases or, things, we had to go run to the Europeans to get medicine and all. We have everything we need right in Africa, all the genius in the world. But we got to run to others to do for us. It's pathetic. So one of the institutions I was always thinking I love to see, kind of along the line of a think tank, was to develop an African Academy of Science and Mathematics and all these things, so that as we face problems of the world the way others have, we'd have the best and brightest minds to be able to come together and advance solutions to the problems we face, and come up with not only a 100-year plan for Africa's development, but also look at ways of, what happens if this were to happen. How would we respond? What would be the best solution? And have the best, brightest minds of our own, produce these things, and have a circle where we can kind of bounce ideas off of one another until we can start formulating plans. Because, planning is what we do, action is what we do, but planning is, Garvey was the ultimate planner as far as I'm concerned. That's why I always call him the master architect and chief engineer, the most comprehensive blueprint for Black power ever designed and constructed. And the greatest way to make a Garveyite laugh is to tell him your plan, because we had plans that have manifested miracles since the days of yore, and outperformed any and every institution ever built. So we got the master plan, and we need to start putting it in work in different communities. Put it to work everywhere across the globe until the whole world understands that, again, we can do what other races have done. But I was just kind of curious what you all thought were some ideas of institutions that may not exist, that may need to be implemented in this day and time, that hasn't already been formed. Because we definitely have to be creative as we approach certain issues and problems. Every problem has a solution. And we have universal African nationalism as the universal solution to our universal problems. And sometimes those plans need to have tailored, specific institutions to address the needs, celebrations or different ways of institutionalizing certain ideas. So anyway, just picking you all's brain, what you all think may be some institutions that need to be implemented today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm gonna let up my sister. My sister's got all the bright ideas, so she is
She the
the
brains of the operation.
yeah, she's the brains of the operation. We're just not ready for what she has to bring. But I'm gonna let my sister Nyasha break it down for y'all tonight. Sister, come on, open up your mind. Don't get
Yes, my
shy now.
brother.
You got all the ideas. You are the brain. We're just not ready for a lot of your ideas yet. But in terms of what the president said, what kind of institutions do you think that we should have right now, sister? Because I know you got the gems for us tonight.
Right now, if we
Right
were
now,
ready, if we were ready,
if we're
I
all ready.
definitely we feel like we need a business. We need to be having some income. We need to be able to circulate. I'm going to say black pound because we're on British soil, but just circulate our black pounds,
Can you break it
British
down a
pound.
bit more for us, sister, and say what kind of business? Because you could say a business, we get that, but what kind of business? Like you might not know. That's fair. That's fair enough. Because this is a
I think
random
there's
question.
loads. That's the thing. There isn't one
Okay.
specific.
That's why
We could be. It's
we
about taking up the market where there's a majority. So things like having property, which is always generating, but we're not just always generating. We could also be housing our people. Do you know what I mean? And the money's already circulating from our people, and it keeps building. The economy for property in this country and all over the world is huge. you know. So that's something we can start. We're looking at having a barber business. Every man always wants his hair trim, even if he's only got a fiver in his pocket. Wants his hair trim. People are into grooming and self care a lot in this time. So capitalize on what the market is geared to, and also, captivating and building relationships within our community also. But, it still stems back to the foundation of we have to know what was done before, understand where we're coming from, remember our roots, enable for us to go forward to then build the institutions. Because there are loads of businesses that Black people have, but it's about sharing those so that one becomes two, two becomes three, etc., etc. As opposed to just, oh yes, I'm just doing for me and my family and my intergenerational wealth. Um, so yeah, the list is long. The list is very, very long. Let me move out the room. I'm supposed to get water. The list is endless. It's just us pulling together to make it happen at the end of the day. So that's kind of my views at the moment. But as I said, we're not quite there yet. But when we are, yeah, we can do anything. We've been doing anything. That's the thing. We've been doing it first. So
facts. To build up on top of your wisdom, I will add that I think that we need to continue the legacy of Garvey. So I think that in terms of businesses, Garvey showed us the businesses to have.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Building on top of that. That's what I meant.
We deal with like what you call it, foundation, fundamentals, whatever, food, clothing, and shelter. These are the fundamentals of all humanity: food, clothing, and shelter. So we need food, we need clothing, and we need shelter. Once we can govern these three things around the world, building homes for us, social housing. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a little story. There was a cash and carry in my area. For those that are in America, cash and carry is something like a wholesale warehouse for food and things like that. The cash and carry was run by some Indian people. They was running this for maybe 10 years, maybe 30 years. They closed down their cash and carry and they built built flats on top of it. And they named the flats after their shop, right? Which was, I thought, them. I just look at them and say, yo, these Indian brothers and sisters, they're on game. They're on the Garvey knowledge. So food. We need to be selling food. We need to be getting food from the Caribbean or Africa, whatever we're eating. We need to, like, I know that, for instance, in America, you can farm. If our brothers and sisters in America were farming and we were getting our products from America, like our potatoes, our fruits, things of that nature, we're feeding ourselves. Clothing. We wear a lot of clothes. You know what I'm saying? We need to make, we make fashion. So we make, I don't know if people are aware that when Nike came out, some people say Nike, some people say Nike. When Nike came out, do you know who built their brand for them? One black man. A black man with a bald head named Michael Jordan. He built their brand. Before that, it was Adidas. Or Adidas, however you want to pronounce it. They were running the market. And then when Nike came out, or when Nike came out and invested in Jordan, Jordan changed the whole game. Now Nike is one of the biggest brands out there. If we had our own brand and made it popular, imagine we had our own trainers, sneakers to some, our own tracky suits, our own suits and things of that nature. We're clothing ourselves. Like, you know, everybody knows I'm a student of Garvey, but I'm also a student of Dr. Khaled. Dr. Khaled came once said that if the white man came here and said, "Give me back my name," you got no name. Give me back my clothes, you got no clothes. Give me back my house, you're homeless. Give me back my food, you can't eat. Like everything we have, and Garvey just spoke about this in this book, you know, where he says that you're given, anytime you don't know something, you're given the other person sovereignty over you and he rules you. So bringing it back in, that in the food, clothing, and shelter, we need to have those things. We need to have our own name, our own culture. And I'm not a cultural revolutionary. I don't believe that culture alone can free us. I don't believe that. But I do believe culture can give us pride. I do believe that. I do believe that culture can give us self-esteem and give us ambition. I do believe that. I don't believe that just going back to Africa's gonna solve our problems, because you just gone back to Africa. That's all that means. Africa's still run by the European and others. That's not freeing us. Freeing us is getting power, as I always say. And black people are scared of the word power for some reason. But Garvey came with power. Garvey did it in a way that taught us that simplicity. Wow, you're a black person. So you're like, even mentioned it in the book, you got a nose, you got a broad nose, you got thick lips, where you just breaking it down like simple mathematics. Like these things, you are different from everybody else. So we got to act different to everybody else. Sisters, I'll give you an example. A lot of sisters, yeah, are using products made for other people, and it's giving you bad skin, it's killing you because these products are not made for our skin. Some sisters graduate and they understand now that, well, I can't use that in my hair. I can't use that on my skin. I have to use things that are made for us. Natural things. So I think, you know, to go answer your I know I went round. I'm in a talkative mood today, Mr. President. Forgive me. But in answer to your question, food, clothing, and shelter. Once we can figure out how to control that element of our lives, we are liberated and we're self-sufficient. And Garvey himself did these things. He had food, he had clothes, and he was going to give us a shelter in Africa. And I don't want to say that for those people to think Garvey was on a back to Africa, because he wasn't. He said some people have no use, are good for nothing in America and Europe, and they'll be good for nothing in Africa. So we're not trying to take everybody back to Africa. So I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that he gave us the idea, he gave us the program, food, clothing, and shelter. The Black Star Line was the food. He had these tailors in Harlem, all over America, I do believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I definitely know that Garvey controlled Harlem. They should rename Harlem Garvey, for me anyway. And just like they should rename West Kensington Garvey in London, because when you look around West Kensington, you got his house, you got the HQ, you got the park, you got so much history of Garvey. There's not one man in West Kensington doesn't have as much history as Garvey has in London. I'll be honest with you. So I think that's the main thing. Go ahead, Mr. President. Food, clothing, and shelter. All that. Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We need it all. And as an institution, what I had always thought about, because there were some people who were promoting an idea who were affiliated with UNIA, our former chaplain general's great grandfather, who, you know, their whole family was Garveyites, our chaplain general's family. Actually, he was in Atlanta. His mother used to take food to Mr. Garvey every day to make sure he didn't have to eat that prison food. But anyway, our chaplain general's great grandfather was named Kojo or Kudjo, depending on how you pronounce it, Lewis. And Kudjo Lewis was the founding mayor of what was called Africa Town. And Pritchard, Alabama area in the South. And the idea of Africa Town, just kind of just thinking about it, hearing about it, and the success they had, while they had him as mayor, was kind of interesting because near where I live in Washington D.C., we have a Chinatown. It's a retail market outlet, but probably about 10 blocks away there's another wholesale market area, Florida Avenue Market area, where all the products coming in from China, straight off the boat, they send them right to the China, uh, this industrial wholesale kind of marketplace. So all the fish and rice and everything they bringing in from China, ginseng tea, whatever they got, they bring them by the shiploads. All the I love Washington D.C. T-shirts they make cheap, the clothing, at that time CDs and everything else you need for remote controls or whatever products. They bringing all this stuff in by the hundreds of millions of dollars every week into this wholesale market, selling it to any and everybody, the tourist, industry, etc. Everybody's being met. All this stuff is going to Chinatown to sell, make millions of dollars off of it, and then they're taking all that money they make, send it back to China to get more stuff and bring that over until America has a huge deficit with the Chinese. And I remember one time reading this, not reading, watching the movie Spike Lee did, Do the Right Thing. I don't know if you all remember that. But in Do the
Yes,
Right
sir.
Thing, there's a scene in the movie where it was three gentlemen sitting on the corner, having a little conversation. And one of the elders started looking at the store across the street. And he said, "Man, I just can't figure it out." He said, "What you talking about, man?" He said, I just don't understand it." He said, "Well, break it down. Tell us what you're talking about." He said, "Man, I've been in this neighborhood for a long time." They said, "Yeah, you have been here wrong. You belong here for everybody." And as long as I've been in this neighborhood, that building across the street was boarded up. It was an eyesore. Nobody wanted to do anything with it. And these little Chinese people just got off the boat, not even a whole year. They went and bought that building and started a good paying business in our neighborhood. He said, "Man, I can't figure it out. Either those little Chinese people are geniuses or we about the dumbest people on the damn planet." And something about that comment. Are they geniuses or are we just, not living up to our full potential? Are we not exercising that lordship they were talking about? And if we had an Africa town, just like they had a Chinatown, because, we saw some black businesses, they say, "Oh, y'all racist. Y'all not letting white folks come in and compete." Well, what do you say about Chinatown? You don't say they're racist, when they circumvent racism and discrimination by forming their own banks and forming their own businesses and having these products that they want to sell as, a part of their culture, etc. So why should Africa Town be such a race offensive institution? But to have products made from Africa, made not only just Africa, but maybe the Caribbean, maybe from other parts of the African world, is exclusively made by us and sent to communities where we can, have these products available, a whole world would change. I mean, if we had products made in Africa, because right now everybody comes to Africa to get raw material, but if we actually manufacture, use that coltan, use the lithium, use all these different products that we have right from the soil, definitely the gold and the diamonds and the coal, all other mineral wealth, and made final products out of it. We gonna make those processes. We're gonna make the chips that everybody needs in order to operate cell phones, etc. If we start manufacturing and becoming the retail outlets in different cities across the globe through this Africa Town type of project, I think we would transform the world. If we had one or two successful Africa towns here and there, they could help show the way for other communities to form Africa towns of sorts. And we would, it's a simple enough, equation of Chinese with Chinatown, Africa town. So it's our way of not only having small private, businesses, but actual thinking on the industrial, on the market level. If they have, all kinds of markets, real estate markets and different kinds of industries, medical industrial complexes, all these. We need to think on that kind of broad scale. We may not start on that kind of scale, but if we at least, if there's a grocery store here and a grocery store there and another grocery store here, then that supports the concept of having a farm to produce for those grocery stores, because you'll be saving money and, therefore making money. And then you can start getting bulk of ingredient, things from different places and have, trucks just line up and down on the coast and go to this store, to that store, to that store, to that store, and now you're supporting the industry on a global level. But we can expand on that level if we think on that level, and if we start working industry item by item, whatever we have to do to get there. But that concept of Africa Town has always stuck with me. But that's another institution that kind of speaks to some extent to what Madam President Yasha was talking about. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there and put it inside your brains.
And I wanna add to that. Over here that they have a Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have a Chinatown over here. Anywhere the Chinese go, they set up their own town. And that's nothing. I have nothing against that. All power to the Chinese. I mean, the question is, or what I'm asking based upon what the President General said is, why are we not doing the same thing? Forget what they say. They can say racist, whatever. I don't even care what they say. Do you know what I'm saying? Because every nation of people on this earth practice nationalism, but the black man and black woman. But nevertheless, I see Brother Lions in the building. Brother Lion, and you're supposed to do the reading today. Unfortunately, you couldn't do it. We moved on without you. But please, can you do the pledge to the flag for us today? Are you with us? Are you on the call? Are you away from the phone? I guess he's away from the phone. He's taking too long to respond. But every nation practice nationalism. Every nation of people on this earth practice nationalism, but the black man and black woman. And I think that's where we're failing. I don't think that Sister Nyasha, I always say we gotta love black people more than they hate themselves. But as a collective.
Sorry, I'm here, brother. I'm here. I'm just figuring out this thing with my devices, but I'm here.
Oh, well, since you're here, unmute the mic and give us our pledge to the flag, brother. Come on with it now.
That's right.
Come on with it now. Don't bring it up. Don't tell me you need to bring it up on no screen. I need it. Come on, brother. Come with it.
Ready? I commit my body, mind, and spirit to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green, and dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa and the liberation of her scattered black children. I accept for myself and my descendants the teachings of universal African nationalism, and I promise that our children will be instilled with the purpose of our knowledge of themselves as African people in order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail until black people are free and united through one God, one aim,
one destiny. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love when our brothers and sisters know the oath, know the pledges off their heart.
I have to run.
I love it. I love it because we're all supposed to know it. We're all supposed to know it. And
oh shit, my mic.
Yeah, that's right, sir. Mute that. But I love that, brother. Well, thank you again for that, brother Lion.
No, give thanks.
Yes,
sorry.
No problem. But these things are there to give us inspiration. These things are there to uplift us. A lot of people are into this what do they call it? What do they call it now? Manifestation and all of this jazz. Yeah. This is the true manifestation. Chant these chants every day. Say these pledges. Say your oath every day. Yeah. And see if that don't make you work harder, brothers and sisters. Believe that, know that, live that, and see if we don't start getting some results. I'm known. I'll be honest with you. I'm a bit of Marcus Garvey / with Khalid Muhammad. I get frustrated when we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. It bugs me out. Like, why can't we just get it right, brothers and sisters? We all know it. We all say we believe it. We all say we're living it. Then why we don't have it? Something must be wrong.
Yeah, something is wrong.
What would you think is wrong, brother Elder Sander? I'm not going to call you brother.
I'm not going
to call you brother.
Chastising anybody or anything, right?
No, it's not about that.
But
not naming names.
You said it. When we've studied all these great Black Panther leaders, and we grew up with them, and some of us joined them, some of us joined the Rastafarian movement and other movements. But One thing is evident, and I don't know how much time we've got, but we're talking about institutions, yeah? And we're talking about sovereignty, yeah? Our inalienable rights to self-determination, to be sovereign beings, to be the builders of the future Africa. So I've heard a lot about institutions, and I know most people got a business or doing something. I'm sure of that. Whatever it is, I know that everybody's doing something. But what I want to emphasize on is this: yes, Africa is not for everybody, and as the Right Honourable said, not all Africans are going to be useful in Africa. So why would you take, somebody, or why would somebody that's not going to be useful in the battle onto the front line? I think that's a clear statement that, if you're going to go to Africa, you're going to have to, like you say, you have to be prepared to give yourself as a living sacrifice, for that cause. And reflecting on what the different conversation, I'm just going to free flow. James R. Stewart, who was one of the very first students that was, from what I've read, was in the first initiate school, or the first real classroom that Marcus Garvey actually took some people in and educated them how to go out into the world and do the work. And with all of the, shall I say, events that took place during that 4 or 5 year period, while he was building the Unia ACO, when, like you said, the frequencies seemed to match and everybody realized the urgency to build a nation. Marcus Garvey realized the urgency to build a nation to the extent there were no ships, so he got ships. There was no administration, he got administration. He got the army, he's got the agriculture, he's got all of the auxiliaries. And he said, okay, then, how can we have a nation without a flag? So he got a flag. How can we have a nation where the people are landless? So he went to Liberia. And as far to my knowledge, purchased 500 acres on the Firestone plantation. And I've been there several times. And I also am aware how he was tricked out of, or sidelined, or that land was taken from the Unia ACO, because it was paid for. It's in the records, it's in the government records. The land was paid for. But in the end, it was taken over by an American tire producing company called Firestone. Firestone, through the 14-year war in Liberia, never ceased its operation one day. Throughout the war, neither side interrupted with the production of rubber, and obviously the grand theft of the mineral resources of that country. No, it wasn't just the rubber. That 500 acres of land that Marcus Garvey purchased for the Unia ACO is a very fruitful and fertile land with all of those attributes of mineral wealth, of fertile land, and with the possibility to build a city in Africa. Mr. Du Bois, as I had mentioned earlier in the conversations, and I heard about Mr. Du Bois in me growing up with Garveyism, growing up trying to find out, growing up, so I heard about Mr. Du Bois. And I went to Ghana and I saw his statue, but I did not respect his statue because I knew that he was, I didn't want to be partisan. I didn't want to be an enemy of somebody, but as far as I could read at the time, and I might not have been up to speed, but Mr. Du Bois was obviously a great adversary of Marcus Garvey. I know that he went to Liberia and spoke to Mr. King, the President King, and advised him that he should never let Marcus Garvey touch the shores of Liberia. So we talked about Lazarus. We can talk about, betrayal, Judas. We can talk about so many things that will happen within the building of an organization, or like the great Messiah was doing, to build a nation of sovereign beings, of sovereign black people, sovereign in Africa, not being subjugated to any colonial imperialist rule. And I don't think anything should change from that. I don't think anything should change, and I don't think the urgency that we need to exercise in accomplishing this, it should not be compromised. It should not be put as a second option or something that we have to do later on down the line. I believe it's imperative, and I heard the president say that he's very much interested in, if the Chinese can have a Chinatown, then why can't we have a Garvey Town? But we have a Garvey Town. I'm saying this today in live amongst these 5-6 people here, that we do have a Garvey Town. People know me that Garvey Town has been existed since 2005.
Were you talking about one in Ghana? Sorry to cut you.
In Liberia.
Okay, sorry, sir. Go ahead.
So Ghana, Liberia. Me being a Garveyite, and I'm not saying anything, I'm saying it now because obviously I'd hope to have presented it in a more formal and more official way. And I have made attempts to see our President General in Jamaica, Mr. Stephen Golding. I have sent the coordinates of the exact whereabouts of that particular land that I'm talking about. And it has always been my intention to turn it over to the UNACO with the right administration, with the black print of Marcus Garvey. How do we do this? How do we achieve this? We can do it individually. We can go and set up our own, or try and form our own division or chart or chapter, and divide ourselves again, trying to accomplish the same thing, trying to accomplish the same black print. Whether it's in a group, or whether it's in my village with those groups, or trying to recruit other members, but I don't think that's the solution. Yes, we do have a Garvey Town. And
So,
yes,
you,
hold on, let me finish.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, everyone should strive to have a Garvey Town, even if it's 1 acre, or 1 street, or the backyard, or an undeveloped plot in England. Everybody should strive to do that. What I'm emphasizing in, or what I'm trying to strengthen, is the fact that President General said yes, and even the Commissioner said yes. We do know that we do need to build our institutions. We do need to own property. It says so. If we've been studying Mark, we do. In fact, Marcus Garvey says, in whatever community you live, you should try and own a property. If you can't own the property, rent the property. If you can't rent the property, then lease the property. So, brothers and sisters, all of us are potential, or all of us have the potential to open up or to develop a Garvey Town with the constitution that we have. And although some people might say, okay, those people ain't doing anything over there, they're just talking, they're not doing anything, I'm going to get on with what I'm doing, I'm going to do what I can, which probably is the wrong attitude. Because without that unified black print, and without that constitution being in place, and without that constitution being actively and function on a daily basis, then how will we ever challenge white colonialism, imperialism, and all the other isms that have been subduing us for the last, since 1655? We're fighting for our future. We're fighting for our future, our grandchildren. So what I'm saying is that really, yes, we should have our own institution. Yes, we have to put it on the table, within the right context and within the right process and the right procedure. And as I've said before, and I will make it known, I have sent high-level, should I say, executives, the coordinates, and I've made it known that yes, give me 5 warriors. Give me 5 warriors who are not afraid to die. and we can build a city within 2-3 years. That's what I have to put on the table. And if it sounds like I'm a bit presumptuous or being a bit high-headed, it's not that. It's that I was born in Jamaica. So I know about, in fact, the town I come from, Nanny comes from that town. Queen Nanny comes from the town that I come from in Jamaica. And regardless how the Europeans and my parents and whoever, they tried to subdue that warrior spirit inside of me in personal, I'm testifying now of personal experience, is that it could never die. And Marcus Garvey could never be out of my life. Marcus Garvey could never be, it could be the only man that would direct me in the way that I should go. No Christian, no religious Muslims or whatever you want to call it, or white man's man-made religions, or their democracy, or their institutions. And I know there are several of us in this chat now who, from a very early age, rebelled against those institutions that were not for the black race. So here we are in 2024. Here we are, we're talking about Chinatown, we're talking about, yes, and they've got their institutions. You know, the Chinese people, they've got their sovereignty. How many times has anybody seen a Chinese man being arrested in England? How many times do you see a Chinese man gets his shop raided by the police? Or any business operation, wherever it may be. He might be in France, it might be in Germany, it could be in England, it could be in Manchester. It could be in Chinatown, in any town in America. How many times do you see the enforcement agencies raiding these people's places, you know, arresting them, taking them down to the police station, locking them up? And the reason for that is they've got their lordship. They've got their lordship. They have their sovereignty. They might not tell you, but they have their inalienable rights for self-determination and sovereignty. They are diplomats. And we take our money and give them every day. Chinese takeaway, Chinese this, Chinese that, whatever. But you'll never see a Chinese frequenting a black business.
You'll never see them in the unemployment line.
Right? So, you know, Marcus Garvey was a militant. The rightful honorable commissioner said that in those days, when they were lynching, burning people on the stake, when a majority after they say that emancipation, and they flew to Harlem from the south, and then they were pursued to Harlem, and have been pursued ever since in those communities, and we can see the damage, we can see the ripple effect, the John Crows, and all the Willie Lynch, divide and rule. We've seen it all played out in Brooklyn, Brooklyn, New York, Queens, Staten Island, Chicago, wherever you go. And in my view, at my age, what I'm seeing now is that really and truly, our back is really. Marcus Garvey said that the black man is never going to know himself until he's back against the wall. And now we're finding ourselves with our back against the wall. And we're looking for these institutions that's going to strengthen our back, that we can go out there and fight these imperialists, that we can go to Africa and not be subjugated to their sort of tribalism and whatever. So our back is against the wall. And we have great thinkers here. Sister Naisha, my great brother there, the President General. Ever since I met you, you've been an inspiration. But I don't want to be inspired and don't do nothing. I don't want to be inspired by Marcus Garvey and don't do the uttermost to fulfill and to make sure that his legacy is forever. He said if it takes 1,000 years or 100 years or 1,000 years, he said his work must be fulfilled. So we could just be blasé and go and procrastinate and just say, okay, it's going to happen anyway. We'll just sit down and wait for it to happen, or future generations. But you know something? I think we are privileged. I think we are blessed. I think the spirit of Marcus Garvey is speaking to us every day. In fact, I know that is the case.
Facts.
I know that is the case. He speaks to us every day, because we could be watching the football now. We could be doing something else. We could be whatever. But we're here because we know that our back is against the wall. We're here because it doesn't matter if we've got the whole army here. It doesn't matter if we've got the whole of the institution set up. It doesn't matter if we've got the Black Cross nurses, if we've got the legions. It doesn't matter, because in my view, those have already been established. It's already been established.
That's right. Well, they say in the military world that a soldier deserves a soldier.
Yeah. Let me come
Uh,
down, President General, and then I'll leave the floor
yeah,
to you, Honourable. No disrespect,
yeah. No, okay, finish your
because
thought.
we
I know
talk
you
from the
finish.
heart.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, and I noticed this because it's like we're trying to set up Division 284 in London, and I know already, like the Honourable Commissioner said, South Kensington and all around that area, there's nobody with such a renowned name as Marcus Garvey. In Brixton, where I come from, you know, all of the memory, all of the things that's been left there in his memory, and other places down by the old street, the docks that he used to work. What are we going to do now? Yes, we're going to bring our little projects one together. We're going to put them together. But what I know that the only way that we're going to be successful is through the UNIACL collectively, militantly, forcefully, intelligently, resourceful. We need our lordship. We need our lordship. And I will put something out on the air today, because I give myself as a living sacrifice. I don't mind if I die today talking about Marcus Garvey. I don't mind if I die in the sleep, trying to fight for the liberation of Black people, African people. So I'm going to just talk it as it is. Marcus Garvey, in 5 years, got us to the pinnacle. He got us to the pinnacle where, as far as we've talked about the green line and the white line and all the different other institutions that were set up by European colonialists, dictators, genocide, people killed, all over the world. That is the seriousness of our mission, brothers and sisters. Because Marcus Garvey knew that without true sovereignty, without us having our inalienable rights of self-determination, with our own flag, with our own auxiliaries, our own institutions, our own army, our own administration, our own agricultural, and everything that goes within any structure for a people, that is what we needed to do. One question I've always asked myself and I've always pondered on is why? And I don't know, but I've always said, well, why have we not been able to fulfill that last part? We have the flag, we have all of the institutions, we have the auxiliaries, we are worldwide. The spirit of Garvey is in every country in Africa that I've been to. The youths they love Marcus Garvey. The statesmen, the people that are in the state houses, the presidents, everybody, they know and they love Marcus Garvey. What the elders and what the chieftains he say to me in Africa is, but nobody comes forward with a solid proposal, they say. They said that to me in Ghana. They said, but we know about you people, but nobody's actually come forward to represent you. They said that to me in Ghana. They said that to me in Gambia. They said it to me in Nigeria. But we know about you people. We know about Marcus Garvey. But who represents you? And I can't say nothing. I can say, well, yes, I'm a member of the UNIACL. I'm a member of EWF Local 401. And yeah, I'm a 12 tribe member and I'm a Black Panther. And I can go on for all day. But what they want to see, and Mr. Garvey did negotiate with President King in Liberia. Maybe, but he had to. That's protocol. He had to negotiate with the sitting president of that country at the time as returning slaves coming back into an African country and an African culture. So I think he observed the protocols by going to Mr. King, by trying to obviously, let him be aware that people are coming, and that the people are returning back to Africa, and that they should be made up. And even though in the times of Kwame Nkrumah in the first or second or third wave, loads of land grants were given to different institutions, including Ethiopia. And I'm talking about the land grant that King Haile Selassie gave the Rastafarians movement in Shashamane. Yeah? Then we're talking about the land grants that were given by Kwame Nkrumah to the EWF in Ghana. And we could go to Sierra Leone and Ghana and all the other countries because land grants were given for us to return. Yeah, the land, it's in there, it's in their constitution, it's in their documents. But what they always say to me is, well, who will come and represent you? Who will come and lay claim to, like they say about Firestone, who will dare to come and challenge Firestone that this land belongs to the UNIAACO? 500 acres, the most beautiful land that you will see. Mr. Garvey did things, anything he did it immaculately. He did it 120%. So, my brothers and sisters, I'm going to come down. I'm talking too much from the heart. I'm talking from maybe 50 or 60 years of frustration. And the only thing that I can say that's worthwhile living for now, in the remaining days that I have on this earth, is to see the fulfillment of the UNIA ACL in London, in particular, because of the great horror story of Marcus Garvey in London. So that's one of my purposes. That's one of my, yes, I will put 100% behind that. Europe, wherever. But really and true, my brothers and sisters, I'm saying now, because I haven't formally sent the letters out, but 10 strong men without no talk, who are brave, who are prepared to leave their children, leave their wives, leave their jobs, leave their little runnings around the corner, and come into the jungle, because that's what Africa means. Africa means you're going to go back into the jungle. It means you're going to go back with the snakes, with the mosquitoes, with the scorpions, with the malaria, with the yellow fever. I respect James R. Stewart. I think James R. Stewart, I will call his name. I could even rename myself. I could even rename myself James R. Stewart. Because he epitomizes the relentless and fearless objectives by going to Africa, by taking his family to Liberia in the 1940s. And to fulfill in my words, and the president general is there, at a time when people were despondent with some were saying, well, we're despondent, some were happy and some were sad. Maybe the ones that were sad were the ones that didn't want to go to Africa. But the ones that were happy, maybe the ones that wanted to go to Africa. So we were divided from then. Brothers and sisters, I thank you so much for allowing me to speak for so long. And I hope that whatever I've said is of no offense to anybody. My only wish is to fulfill the works and the philosophy of Marcus Garvey, particularly in African soil. It was not my calling, but that's where I am. I preferred Ghana, but I ended up in Liberia. And when I went to Liberia, I saw that, yes, Mr. Garvey was here. Although it had slipped my mind for a little while, but when I did end up in Liberia, I said, Mr. Garvey was here. And then when I went to Liberia and I saw in 1997, when I saw how my African brothers and sisters were literally killing one another because of white imperialism, colonialism, and without even knowing the purposes and the reasons why they were doing this. And having known that this has happened all over the African continent, I think I decided, yes, I'm going to do something about it. Money or no money, whatever, groups, institutions or not, I'm going to try and do something about it. And, I think when I went up into Yangar town that day in 2014, and I looked up on the hills and the mountains there, and the chief said, this is the land where your people, one day when they come, this is the way they will be. I could have melted into the car. I didn't know. I had never planned for anything like that. I'd never calculated for anything like that in my whole life. But then I realized that it was the power and by the might of the Messiah Marcus Garvey, because all that could come out of my mouth was, this place is called Garvey Town. This place is going to be called Garvey Town. They looked at me, said, who is he? Who is this Marcus Garvey, after fumbling with his name for quite a little while, I said, you will find out. I said, you will find out who Marcus Garvey is in time to come. So my brothers and sisters, I'm with you 100% for any institutions, for anything that we're going to go forward to develop our race. Our back is against the wall. And when our back is against the wall, we also have to stand to attention. We have to rise to the occasion. We can't make any excuses. Yes, none of us is perfect. None of us is fully conversed in all of our story of Marcus Garvey, that great philosopher, that great unifier, that great, courageous, fearless man. We can only construct, we can only build in his honor now. And if we're going to come together, we can spend a lot of time. But I always say this: I'm like the commissioner. I know that I'm a Black Panther. I'm everything. I'm all of those because I'm fighting against colonialism and oppression for over 500 years. There can't be. You cannot be you cannot be sitting on the fence. It's a complete, and that includes me too. We have to go all out. We have to go full force forward. We've got to take the bull by the horn, as it were. We've got to go. Don't think because those people are Africans and we're coming here that they are best friends. Because I say this to a lot of people, and I have over 35 years experience in Africa. I said, just because somebody's a Nigerian and his skin is black like tar doesn't mean that he's your brother. In fact, I think you'd rather be more aware of him than you would be for some colonists. I'm telling you from personal experience. So I know that, yes, we're going to need guidance. We're going to need all of the experience that we need for those that want to go to Africa. I'm not saying everybody does, but for those, I'm one of those who want to go to Africa. I think that we have to go to Africa because, yes, I know that that's where I came from originally. And I've never been assimilated in the Western world, in the European world, by any of their vices. So I think so really and truly, I'm here. I think as an elder with a lot of decades of seeing organizations try to organize. Some do, some don't, and it goes on, and then some get stuck here forever. But while we're doing these things, and while we're deliberating where is right for us, I can guarantee you that the Chinese are building their Chinatown somewhere in Africa right now. And they're building their Lebanese town somewhere right now. And their presidents and their statesmen are buying land up by the day, by the minute, by the second. So it's up to us what we do, my brothers and sisters. I do apologize if I sound rash or harsh or any way offensive. But in my view, we're in war. We're at war.
Facts, 100%.
And when you're at war, my brothers, I ain't got time to be. Yes, we're gonna have to keep reading. We have to keep reading. We have to keep studying, and we have to be intellectually sharp. We have to be like in the martial art where they say it's better to be a warrior in the garden than to be a gardener in the war.
Yes, sir.
Facts. So I'm gonna come down now because I'll speak all night. And thank you so much,
No
Commissioner. Thank you so much, President. Race first. Thank you very much, PG. And I'll come down now and give the floor to somebody else.
I was gonna interject. I did interject you. My apologies. And I was gonna say something, but I will save that for later. But you asked for 10 men, you need only 9 now. I'll keep it 100 with you. You just need another 9. If it's 10 men you're looking, you got a soldier in me. 100%. And I don't talk for just talk's sake. I mean,
well, I apologize for this informal interjection and into the chat room, but I just think it's that urgency. I am preparing some documents, and as my brothers and sisters, and we're all members of the UNIA, I can discuss this. I am preparing some documents. I have got some projects. I've got a sustainable farming project that I'm trying to develop. Yeah, sustainable agriculture, which involves hydroponics, aquaponics, and geological agriculture. 3 sustainable means of growing foods and vegetables without soil or without fertilizers, etc. And I'm hoping to implement that in different communities. One of them is the Maroon community in Moortown, because I come from Portland, and in my village, and wherever any of our brothers and sisters, once the proposal has been put through the right channels, if it's got to go through the commissioner or for them to view it and then to put it to whatever, then that could be one of the projects that we could actually be involved with. I have written 3 proposals and they're complete. I'm just going over the final proof reading of it, and then I'm hoping to pass it along to the brothers. It's called Seeds of Change, Sustainable Agriculture, using those 3 methods of producing food without using soil, fertilizer, etc. And there is a science behind it as well in cultivation. So that's one of the 3 A's, which is agriculture. So that project, we're just waiting for some final drafts, and then we will be sending it. I don't know if I can say this in this open here, but I'll say it anyway because it's just the vibes. I'm open to sending it, and of course, my brothers and sisters within the UNIAACO are quite welcome to see this document once it's done, and are quite welcome to participate, not with money necessarily, in these projects in developing sustainable agriculture in different parts of the Caribbean. Maybe, in fact, this type of agriculture, you can grow food on your windowsill in your kitchen. And I've got several examples. You can grow red kidney beans and different things, peas, all sort of different things on your windowsill without any soil, without any fertilizer. So I'm going to come down now with that, and obviously I'll try to email some of these ideas of mine to the commissioner, so that he can have a look at it before, obviously, forwarding it to the president or the president general. So, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, race first.
First race.
First race.
Make that 8 brothers or soldiers that you need now, Brother Sando.
Yes, sir. We love that, Brother Lion. We love that. We love that. Indeed.
Well, I appreciate the wisdom and the spirit, Brother Sando. The Honorable President General James Robert Stewart Sr. was a man's man. I mean, he was a Garveyite. He was one who arguably was the #1 student in the School of African Philosophy, first class. And he's certainly the one who I think best exemplified not only the teachings, but the behavior of our sainted founder in every way. And in some ways, you can even say that where Mr. Garvey was unable to acquire the land in Liberia back in the 20s. And it was 1,000,000 acres that we were going for, 5 settlements of 200,000 acres apiece that we were shooting for, that wound up getting purchased by Firestone because of the sabotage of Du Bois, in conjunction with the Council of Foreign Relations and some others who were trying to get the government financed over there. But anyway, that's another story. But James R. Stewart, after taking the course and understanding Mr. Garvey's plan, he eventually started a farming community in America, in Oregonia, Ohio. And when he started the farm, he started a sawmill. He started, putting together. He had, dynamo, all these different things. He had a chicken farm. He was growing tons of food. He had a lot of land to build upon, and it was so successful in Ohio that he transformed all. He took all these equipment, all the things he had, the skill set, and the people, and a group of us went to Liberia and established in Bandala, Zanzu province, or whatever it is, in Liberia community. Liberia was giving out land at that time once Tubman came in power, and unfortunately, because of some politics at the time, there was a travel ban for anybody who was a member of the UNIA, couldn't make it to Liberia, so he had to come over as the Stewart family, and all the equipment had to be put in the name of the Stewart family. And eventually, some people in the UNIA in America thought he had stole, privatized, and everything, and put it in his name so that he can just escape the UNIA and live in Africa. So they put that unfortunate rumor out there. Whereas what he was trying to do was get it implemented and then smooth things over with the government, which he wound up doing. And in fact, Tubman, the president of Liberia, actually became the potentate of the UNIA, which was Mr. Garvey's mission of having a sovereign ruler in Africa to actually become the potentate of the organization. So anyway, in some ways, he established and settled in Africa what Mr. Garvey was unfortunately unable to do in his time. So he is a successor in a lot of ways to Mr. Garvey. And the things that he accomplished there was interesting. But as you were mentioning, that everybody is not ready to go over there. It reminded me of one of Mr. Stewart's daughters. He had 3 daughters and 2 sons and a wife that went over, along with a few other members of the division, the Secretary General and some others that came over with him. But one of his daughters, who was raised in Cleveland, um, she was barely getting by with the bugs and the occasional mouse in the house in Cleveland. Then when she had to go to live on the farm in Oregonia, she was like, "Oh man, they had rats, snakes, and everything all over the place. Bats I had to deal with. I was terrified living on that farm." And then they started talking about they want to go to Africa with lions and tigers. He said, "Oh, that's it for me. I'm out of here." So she wound up running away from home and went to live with her aunt before the rest of the family went back to Africa. So yeah, everybody may not be farm strong or ready to endure what it takes. But the rest of the family went over there. They were fine. They became great farmers amongst other things. One of Mr. Stewart's sons actually was a high-ranking military officer over there in Liberia. His daughter married the minister of lands, and she helped some of the Hebrew Israelites with Rabi Ben Ami and others when they came over back in the '60s and tried to set up a community over there. They were starving, and the tents were breaking down, and Sears and Roebuck shovels couldn't break the dirt, and they were struggling. So the Garveyites saved their lives, admittedly, over there. But yeah, but we can do all that again. Stewart was a lot like you too, Brother Sando, and that he was a warrior. He was a professional boxer, and he was like I said, a man's man. He was a hunter. He was, strong man. It didn't take a whole lot of nonsense. And the FBI and everybody else was, fearful to death of that man. Everything he said, everything he did, but he kept the work going. And in fact, he was so bold when he published the New Negro World. He wasn't worried about them spying on him. He actually sent the FBI a copy. So you know what I'm talking about, because he didn't give a damn. Again, you can't stop him. So he was a man who was determined to do whatever he wanted to do on behalf of this association to fulfill Mr. Garvey's vision of what we should be producing and having for ourselves. So anyway, I definitely want to see that not only the land of Bondula, but also later on another branch of the UNIA had started a school in Monrovia, the Marcus Garvey Memorial Institute. One of the graduates, Master Sergeant Sam Doe, even came out of that institution. But it was an institution that was training young men in leadership, military science, and all that. But a lot can be done. Many of the people who were in the UNIA, in fact, I'm working on a film script right now, just for the record, a feature film. And one of the people who had agreed to finance and greenlight the film was actually the daughter of one of the UNIA's team of experts that went to Liberia in 1921. One of the builders who went over there to Liberia and stayed long after the commissioner and everybody else left. And tried. He had a relationship with some of the people over there. He developed a builder named Jamo, and him and Frank Lawrence and other experts went back to Liberia and wound up setting up farms, and many repatriated from Jamaica and other places in the UNIA to come to Liberia to kind of live that dream and become high officials in the government. So I mean, all these things have been done already. It's not like it's no blueprint. We've had Garveyites who blazed the trail there, as well as, like you said, Sashamani with the Ford family. Arnold J. Ford, a former musical director, and his family went there and set up one of the first schools over there. Mignon Ford set up a school over there. But anyway, as well as one of the Ethiopian national anthem was written by Arnold J. Ford, from Barbados, who was a Garveyite. The Black Eagle, went over to become the first air marshal of Ethiopia right at the outset of the Italian-Ethiopian War. So anyway, Garveyites have had the pluck, have had the wherewithal to establish and go, travel adventurously to new lands that were actually our former lands, and do whatever we need to do in those lands, for the benefit of the race. And yeah, we have that same kind of pluck, which I'm sure we do. Yeah, we certainly can accomplish that and then some. So it's just a matter of putting the plan in motion. We had some plans over here too. not had, but we still have some plans over here to acquire some land. But yeah, but there's a definitely want to coordinate some efforts so that we work better as a concerted effort together and not kind of disjointedly, separately doing different things. And there's some ideas I definitely want to talk to Brother Sando, about dealing with the agricultural hydroponics and that sort of growing. Because there was a model. I forgot it. I think it was in Benin, but it was a Songhai project that his brother had undertaken and was quite successful doing some similar things. And I mean, he really maximized use of the land that he had to, produce bumper crops of all kinds of, um, you know, uh, produce, etc. So some of those models can be examined and considered. Even, I even remember since a child looking at rainforest, knowing that it was, they said every square mile of a rainforest has probably 1,000 undiscovered species of plants and animals and things that no one ever discovered. So it's so much potential, even scientifically, to set up a lab and study whatever different herbs, chemicals, and their nutritional property and value. And there's so many things that can come out of a certain piece of land that we have, and Africa has plentiful land. And yeah, the Asians are definitely coming over there, but they're not setting up no Chinatown in Africa. They setting up China in Africa. They taking over whole countries, coming in by the hundreds of thousands every year and swarming into Africa. And with 1.5 billion, close to 2 billion people, yeah, they got enough people to come into Africa and really take over strong, whole regions of Africa. So yeah, if we don't stop that tide, yeah, there won't be anything left in Africa for us if we don't make a move. So it is a fierce urgency now. But anyway, I don't want to take up the whole time talking, but I appreciate your words of wisdom and the spirit in which you delivered them, my brother.
Thank you, my brother. I just want to add something to what you said about the sustainable farming. Geological agriculture is something that has been funded by the United Nations Department of Agriculture and other institutions in America. And their main, or one of the major, or the most funded projects by these departments and these in America is geological agriculture and geological marine agriculture, because they have found out that there's more minerals in the rivers of Africa, and the mineral content of the rivers in Africa is more there's more nutrients in the rivers from the rock and the natural sediments in the river, and there's untold benefits. There's untold benefits or untold scientific knowledge behind just that study. So in America, the United States Department of Agriculture, SARS, and some other agencies. In fact, it's been studied in over 30 universities in the United States of America. With I think it's Brooklyn University is one of the main universities where it's been studied. So if the colonialists and the Europeans have already realized that, look, these people, it's not just the gold and the diamonds that they have in the ground. It's not the trees and the forest and whatever, but there is actually a source of nutritional value or nutrients that is within the natural infrastructure of the country. And I'm talking not about the rivers, I'm talking about the water table, the water tables, because they tell us that there's a water on top and there's water shortage and blah, blah, and we're going to charge you so much, you're going to buy water in the bottle. There's more water under the ground than there is on top of the earth. And they also know the nutritional value of that marine, what they call marine biology or marine geological agriculture. It is more precious than anything else. It's the most. There's, in fact, if you do your research, you'll find that the United States Department of Agriculture. In fact, I'm not going to quote you in the figures. These are the things that we have naturally. These are the things that are just, should I say, your birthright. It's just something, it's just there. Obviously, the local people are not aware. obviously the governments are controlled by colonial powers and imperialists, and they're working against their people for the obstruction of all of the mineral wealth out of Africa until there's nothing left. And when I say our back is against the wall, is, you know, the African countries, they said that they were going to sign a pact with 40 African countries, said they were going to sign a pact with the Chinese some years ago, which I thought was a bad mistake, but they did it nevertheless, and they were forced to do it because of the lack of development in the 500 years of colonial rule in Africa. No roads, no infrastructure, and all of the minerals and all of the resources been sucked out. Nothing has changed as we speak. Ships are lining up. They're taking out gold bullion by the shiploads. What are we going to do about it? That's the question. What are we going to do about it? We can sit and watch. We can speculate. We can be angry. We can be annoyed. We can go and take arms up, which, you know, Marcus Garvey said, don't take any arms. Some of us are taking up arms in different ways, and there's some militancy, you know, and I can understand that militancy. But Mr. Garvey taught us that with subtle and genius mind, with a developed mind, and an articulate mind, a fearless heart, a fearless man, and brave, and honest, and completely unselfish. They said that Mr. Garvey handled millions of dollars, but he never had any money. He handled millions of dollars, but he never actually had any money himself. And it's trying to motivate me now to say, well, you know something? The way things are going in the conversations, and I see the situation of my people, just even in America, and in the Caribbean, in England here, where generations have been here since the Windrush, and then after 30, 40 years, they say you got to go back where you come from. That's the enemy. He's capable of anything. He'll devise any weapons, any strategy to keep his supremacy. And as I remember one brother a long time ago, a Rastafarian man, he was the head of the Rasta house in Brixton. And he said, Sando, he said, the only way out of this is to bust out, to brock out. I'll tell you, he's in Jamaica. He said, the only way out of this situation is to brock out. Excuse me if I'm using Jamaican language. But he already come to the conclusion with all of the, whatever we were doing, that the only, and some people have busted out on their own. James R. Stewart busted out on his own, and several of the descendants of Marcus Garvey's association, or the Unia ACL, that I've met generations of them in Ghana and in Liberia and other countries. They're there, without a doubt. I've met them. They eat the same types of food, kalaloo and all these things. So they're there. Marcus Garvey's plan was fulfilled, in my view, in that dispensation. In that dispensation, it was fulfilled. I regard Mr. Stewart a lot because he actually fulfilled it by repatriating him and his own family as one of the highest students in Mr. Garvey's school. There has to be one. And if Mr. Stewart hadn't made that move, that brave, courageous move, and if you see some of the size of the snakes down in Africa, if you've ever had malaria or ever had yellow fever, then you'll know how brave he was and how we should respect that man, and how we should try to, reproduce that courage, that bravery, that knowledge of Garvey, that will take him into an African country, completely not knowing the culture, not knowing what was there, but he had built up that power and that strength within, that conviction, that if he had stayed in America, then all of his lifetime work would probably have been looked as if it would have been another story. It would have been another episode, another event that happened in the course of our fight for freedom and from liberty from colonialism. So Mr. Stewart fulfilled a lot because he completed Marcus Garvey's work, and like the Honourable President General said, started farms and other industries, and several of Garvey's executives were actually in the Liberian government. They were in the Liberian government.
Yeah, and
They
I
were
would say too
persecuted
that
and
he
they were
died with his
chased.
boots on in Africa.
Yes.
Yes,
So my brothers are, I'm talking from the heart because I know that our back is against the wall, and I know that every person in this chat room and every person who's trying to learn about Garvey and to come into the UNIACO, that they're special, and we've just got to be so tolerant because you know something, we cannot do it on our own. Individuals can't do it on our own. We need the structure. We need the body. We need the complete the complete thing, the whole, the Constitution, everything, all of its facets, then we have a chance. Then we have a chance. Then we can go to Liberia and we can go to the Capitol building and said, look, my brother bought some land here in the 40s, 500 acres. These are the documents. We've got our records. And we are powerful and strong enough to say we want it back. So I know that we're not going to do this individually. I know that we're not going to do it ad hocly. I know that we're going to, if that is our course, and I will always ask this question, why haven't we pursued that aims? Why have we not pursued the retrieval of that land? Why have we not pursued the governments of Liberia and the different institutions to basically give us our property back, or to give us an alternative that we can continue with what Mr. Garvey started?
Yes, sir. Well, we look like we're running out of time, so we're gonna have to.
Also, I'm done now anyway. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak over the time anyway. So it's from the heart. So thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, President General.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Are you gonna close us out, President General?
Yeah. I'll just close briefly. Again, thanking everybody for their participation. Definitely another great program, and definitely we all want to take this to heart, as Brother Sando has, obviously, and we all want to not just talk about it, but be about it. No time for pity parties and excuse making. Anybody good at making excuses are seldom good for anything else. And so, time for the gentlemen to put their big boy pants on. I guess the ladies, the big girl dresses, and roll up those sleeves and get to work. Because if it can't be done by others, it certainly can't be done by us, if not better. And so, I'll just close by saying that there are three of the most durable, powerful, and beautiful gems on the planet come from out of Africa. You got columbite, you have tanzanite, and you have garveyite. And garveyites are by far the strongest.
Yes,
So
sir.
let us strive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let us strive to be everything that our beloved founder was, and show the world what a race of Marcus Garvey personified would look like, by accomplishing what he accomplished and then some in his honor all over the globe. With that, I close with the motto of the association. You can repeat after me and stand, or put your hand on your heart if you can. And that is one God,
One God,
One God,
one aim,
one
One
aim,
one
aim,
aim,
one destiny.
one
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 destiny.
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 Ashe.
Ashe.